welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, welcome back, sir.
It hasn't been that long. It's only been about 2 weeks. Audio, they're not going to miss anything other than the 2 weeks we haven't posted on audio.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and yeah, our YouTube channel and Twitch,
Yeah.
It's a summer break. We decided that it would be good for us to take a summer break for a little bit of time.
Partially. You went on a vacation, which is fine. Right. We were well aware that was going to happen. But then my contacts broke.
Yep.
I ordered new ones. Come to find out, they're back order for who knows when. The closest I can get to it is August 16th, they told me.
Oh, wow.
What makes it even worse is these glasses are 10 years old. Well, almost 10. They're like 9. They're about 2 prescriptions behind.
Right.
And so I haven't been using this. They've been giving me headaches. So I haven't been wanting to look at computer screens and all that. So I've been reading without my glasses and stuff like that. I've caught up on a lot of reading. Played some board games, not much.
Not much. That's all right.
But it's been a stressful couple weeks because I haven't been able to see properly. And to top it all off, these are not only old. There's a giant crack in this lid.
Every once in a while I keep looking over it. Jeez, what the...
So it's like, not the fact that it's like I'm looking through a fishbowl because they're not my prescription anymore. There's also a crack in said fishbowl, so not only is fishbowl, it's blur. So it's like, is that my eyesight blurry, or is it because of the crack?
I'm getting problems with my eyesight. Oh no, not again. Oh wait, no.
Whereas it's been a fun 2 weeks for you, it's been a stressful 2 weeks for me.
I'm not going to say mine was entirely fun. You know, there was some stress in it, and you and I know why, but... I mean, any vacations, there's some level of stress. And
I'm surprised you're not having more stress now that you're back because you have a teenager now.
Yes, my son just turned into a teenager a couple days ago. Happy birthday him, which is awesome. I don't think he'll ever listen to this podcast. I don't know why he would ever listen to this podcast, honestly. But
he barely puts up with you as it is.
If he does, happy birthday to him. It's awesome.
Happy birthday, buddy.
He's been hanging out with me more lately. I mean, I've been watching him play the Oculus, and because we got him an Oculus for his birthday. And I'm not going to lie, I played the Oculus too. Beat Saber is amazing.
You see, I have the PlayStation VR for the PlayStation 4. I wish they had Beat Sabers on there. This way I could still do my cardio.
Yeah, Beat Saber is so good.
Other than having to do like push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that in the house because I couldn't go anywhere. I can't see. Yeah. I don't trust myself to drive with these glasses. Right. So, I mean, I could walk around the neighborhood, but then it's like, is that a dog? What is that?
I watched some of the 3D videos and stuff that was on there. Yeah. There was like a Red Bull video that was, I guess, these 2 rock climbers climbing to the top of the Matterhorn. And they put the cameras in just the worst spots, like for you to just feel awful. Like, it was so great because like you look around and go, like, oh wow, like this is a beautiful view. Oh, that's a cliff. Oh no.
No.
I mean, I love stuff like that because I love hiking. But that was really intense. It was.
No, I don't do heights. We have Skyrim for the VR.
Oh, I bet that's awesome.
It's cool, but it's not. It's not made for virtual reality because it was a game that was made before virtual reality, and they just implemented it. So sometimes it gets laggy.
And that's an easy way to get nauseous.
Yeah, and so my wife already has motion sickness as it is, so she can't play it. She's like 30 minutes, and she's like, "No, I'm going to throw up." So yeah. Our friend Jim played it. He came over to the house one time and tried it, and he got motion sickness from it.
Yeah, and see, that's what I worry about too, because I get motion sick playing on a TV.
Yeah.
With Skyrim, that I love the game, but man, I can only play it so much just because of that.
Yeah, but if they're games made for VR, there's a cute little game on the PlayStation that we played called Moss. That one's amazing on the VR. It's so fun to play. They just came out with a sequel called Moss 2. Another one the wife played, I don't remember what it's called, but she's like going through like a mansion that's deals with science and stuff like that. She really enjoyed that one. Didn't get motion sickness with it.
I bet there's some amazing escape room games.
It's kind of that one was kind of an escape room game. It was like a remember the old Myths where the click and point where you're trying to put things together? Oh, sure. And so it was kind of like that before, kind of escape room-ish, kind of new age VR stuff. So it was puzzle. Yeah, thing. It was very interactive, and so it was really cool because I could watch everything she's doing on the screen.
That's true. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll have to look into my PlayStation account to remember what the name is, but I know it was on our PlayStation 4 for the VR.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. How if you would do this with a game? Okay. So we just talked about this. I was on a trip recently to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. First time I've ever been there. Really great trip. I don't know much about the board game community there because, if it was just me and my wife and my kids, I absolutely would go to board game stuff.
Yeah, you would have dragged them to it.
Absolutely. They would have no option.
But it wasn't just your family there.
No, so. It was my in-laws, and we were there for my brother-in-law's wedding. So all of that makes sense. So we sight saw a bunch of different things, like the Dole Plantation, the Byodo-in, which is a gorgeous Japanese temple, stuff like that. And so I really tried to avoid board game shops as best as I could, just to not bore them to death. And I also realized, I got to pay for everything I got to ship back. Exactly. So I kind of didn't want to get tempted to just find another game that I owned. But I went to a thrift store there, Savers. And their Savers are amazing. They are
only
huge.
You would go several thousand miles away, like a 5-hour flight?
A 5-hour flight from
to
LA.
Go to Savers and 7-Eleven.
Yes, yeah. No, so my mother-in-law, she's a big thrift store person, and she loves Savers too. So this was bonding time, with me and her.
Yeah.
And we even hit up the Salvation Army there, which is also huge. And the Savers there have full, multiple shelves of board games. And granted, the vast majority of them I own already, but I picked up 2 of them. And one of them was, it was called Black Market Bonanza.
Okay.
Which at first, I was like, okay, it doesn't really look that good. But one, it was sealed. And I looked on Board Game Geek to see what it was about. And it was designed by people from Hawaii.
Okay,
and
that's
it might have even been local, like Honolulu. So I was like, okay, I mean, in a way I could show my support by playing the game and giving an honest review, it's not profits aren't going to them because it was a thrift store, but, I wanted a local souvenir, and what better way to support it like that?
Yeah.
But the question I have for you, I picked up a 2-player game called Tally Ho, and it's one of the Cosmos 2-player games.
Excuse you?
You heard me. So, yeah, it's called Tally Ho, and it's about, one player is playing, the animals, hunting trees or something, or, eating people, and the other people are hunters, and they can only fire in certain directions, but they're hunting animals.
Yeah.
And, there's a certain number of tiles that's in the game, and it has all but 1 tile. And I'm not sure what I wanted to do with the game. Because I'm it's still functionally mostly the same. Because odds are you'll flip over a tree tile, and that's the one I'm missing. So I could just say, this tile's a tree. The starting one, whoever flips over the first tile gets a tree. Done.
Okay.
Because you won't know, right?
Yeah.
Would you get rid of a game like that that's missing 1 tile?
I don't know. Honestly, I haven't got rid of we did a thrift store run one time, and I picked up Marvel Legendary.
Oh, yeah.
And they was missing half everything.
And see, that I could understand, because I wouldn't give it back to a thrift store. I'd sooner throw it away.
Yeah, I still have it somewhere here, but I flat out refuse to return it or something like that. Because I'm someone else is going to get screwed by it. So.
Yeah, exactly. But would you throw something out that's missing a single tile of a game that's kind of hard to find anyway?
I wouldn't myself. I don't know if we could play. Maybe you can 3D print something because you know what the tile's missing.
Maybe, yeah. Although, I feel like if I 3D printed something, I'd have to go all of the tiles. Which there might be enough things online, but at the same time, I just don't know if... because they have to be hidden. They all have to have the exact same back. So if I custom make something, you're
yeah, but if it's a tree tile, it's everybody knows what that is, but it's a tree tile, so...
Well, you won't know until you flip it over. That's the thing. It's like a deck of cards, right? You won't know until... all the backs are the same, but it's not a very exciting.
What you could do is just put cards over it and be I'm going to do this tile. This way, everybody doesn't know what it is.
That's true. That's one way to do it. So I don't know. I'm in a bit of a conundrum that way.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. That's why I'm glad I didn't have to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, I guess neither here nor there. But other than that, it seems like the board game community there is pretty solid.
I would think so, because there's also people that are military that play a lot of board games too. And there's a lot of military stuff there.
There was at least a few board game stores too that I just didn't get a chance to go to.
But it sounds good that you had a good trip, but we are meandering. We've been doing this for almost 10 minutes and haven't really got into our discussion topic. We're doing a top 8 debate. Can you tell the people what's going on?
Absolutely. We are talking about the top top 10 games with 3D components. Top 8 games.
Sorry, he's still on vacation mode.
It's been a while. The top 8 games with 3D components. This is a family category that's in Board Game Geek. Mm-hmm. And we found this when we were looking at, I want to say...
I don't know, you were looking at something. You sent it to me, and I'm like, oh.
I was looking at something, and I was like, wow, okay. No, I think it was Camel Up.
It might have been. You were looking at something, and you sent me, it was like after our game night on Wednesday, and you sent me that right because I was going to bed, and I'm like, so I looked at Quick Over, and I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a lot of games that have 3D components.
And so someone mentioned on our poll about it, our friend of the podcast, Clint, was mentioning something about like, well, doesn't minis count as 3Ds? And I told him, I guess you can, but the fact of the matter is, we're just going off BGG's list. So.
Right, yeah. And so we didn't include stuff with minis because it's like, pawns are 3D, right? Meeples are 3D. We're talking about something else in the game that has a functionally 3D component.
And BGD defines 3D components as games, expansions, promos, etc., using three-dimensional components in gameplay. Actual components, not just images or theme.
Yeah, but it does bring up a very valid point, too. I mean, minis are 3D, right? But, yeah, I like to think of it as something a little bit different. And you'll hear that in our argument why we think that and how they align to that more instead of just the player pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Because meatballs technically are 3D.
Well, certainly.
But a lot of these games, once we start going through them, you'll understand what we're coming with, why we're doing this concept. That's except for one of them, because it's more of a decoration than a functionality.
Yes, which we will definitely be bringing up for the fact.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have it up, do you?
Yeah, it's over there.
Yep. Okay. So we're definitely going to be talking about that one. But before we do that, Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
So, again, I've been blind. I have played some games, but not a lot. There was one period where before you went on your vacation and I had contact still, that I played a ton of games, and it took us, that's why we implemented what we've been playing on Top 8 Debates, because there was just a lot of stuff that we had to talk about. So the first game I want to talk about what I've been playing is a game that you and me played. It was like your first game night after you came back.
Right.
Our other buddies couldn't make it. But
no, what a great welcome.
Yeah, exactly. So they came back, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's just bust this out because I've been wanting to play it.
Yeah.
It's been on my shelf not too long, but it's been up there.
And I've been wanting to play it for really a long time.
Yeah, it's a Richard Garfield deck builder game that supposedly has hurt a lot of Clank fans because they're saying this one's better. Base regular Clank.
I don't disagree.
This one is called The Hunger. I really enjoyed it. I like the fact, yes, it is a race, but it isn't like the first person to go do something. You decided not, I'm not going to go get one of those.
Right.
They give you a lot of points, and they're very powerful cards for your deck. And it's the roses, but you don't have to get a rose to win the game. You just need to make the most points, and you have to be back before the sun comes up, or else you just lose because you get burnt up.
And I forget, did I win that one? I don't.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, and I'm not saying that to brag, but I did not get a rose.
You did not get a rose.
You did.
I got a rose and made it all the way back to the castle, and you were basically, because we played the regular mode.
To get back.
We played in the regular mode, and you were in the mountain. So in the regular or normal mode, you either have to get back to the cemetery or you have to get back to the castle. Mm-hmm. In the easy mode or regular mode, just to make it for first time players, you have to get it back to the mountain. Wherever you're at certain points, you're going to lose points for it. And this thing was quick. It played in 15 rounds once we figured out what we were doing and how everything triggers, because the person furthest away from the castle triggers. And so there's 3 areas outside, the mountain, the castle, everything I talked about. That's called the plains, the forest, and I forget what the other one is. But it's where, the labyrinth is where it is. So the furthest away triggers first. So for a big part of the game, I was starting first because I was furthest away. And then towards the end, I'm like, nope, you're furthest from the castle, so you get to try to run back to the castle more. What I liked about this game is it's got a twist on the deck builder. Yeah, you're putting all these cards in your hand. They're giving you points, but they're not giving you movement, so they're slowing you down. You had a bunch of points in your deck, and it was still relatively close, even though you won, and I had the rose, But the fact was, it was so slow for you to get to the castle. You lost, 24 points?
Yeah.
Something like that. But hurt me by doing that because I took an end-of-game scoring mechanism because I'm like, all right, he's so far ahead right now. If I take this, I get 10 points and maybe I can jump past him on that. No, you lost so many points, it put you behind before we did the end-of-game scoring, so that thing was useless to me. Yeah. I love that. I loved everything aspect about it because it wasn't like a run and you're done kind of situation like the original Clank was. Mm-hmm. For me, I would play this over base Clank any day of the week.
Hands down. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I might even like play it more than Clank Legacy after I'm done with it. You know, what it did was enough different that was intriguing. My favorite part about it was the fact that as you're like killing all the people, right, before you digest them, they make it a lot more difficult. It's like you're getting fat. You know, they make it very difficult to move, to buy new cards, to kill more humans. You start slugging and slowing down really just... And I knew that, so I was like, if I'm not at a rose by halfway through the rounds, there's not a chance I'm going to make it back.
Yeah.
And I purposely focused on, like, only going about a third of the way as I could, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to need at least twice as long to get back because of how much slower I'm making my deck.
Yeah.
And that's something that wasn't immediately clear, but it was clear enough where you're like, wow, I'm slowing down so much to the point I need to fix this now.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only reason is because I figured out that timing. I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic game. I enjoyed it a lot.
Another thing I liked about it, too, because like I had another chance to beat you. I had 2 cards that both triggered on one card. That card never showed up. I was like, where is this card? And both you and me were laughing. It was second to last in the deck.
Yep. Which is just silly.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game. The art's wonderful. It's decent components. Yep. They've already announced an expansion for it, so I'm actually intrigued if we're ever going to get to be able to debate this one because it was that much fun.
It was good, yeah. I mean, I'm sure we will at some point in the future. Maybe we played enough vampire games.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. All right, the first game I've been playing is not technically just one game. In fact, you know, as always, I brought a show and tell.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I brought this for a reason. That's if we have some.
Did you drop the die?
Yes, I did. If for some reason we happen to have some extra time, then we're totally gonna play some. Pardon me, sorry about that. This is called Random Fun Generator, and so I brought a whole heap of different games on the trip with me. You know, expecting to play.
Yeah.
This was the only one we ended up playing, and it comes with the book and 20 dice. Now, they're only 12 millimeter dice. They're pretty small. But this game comes with 21 different games. Mm-hmm. And they're all, you know, only take like a page, maybe a page and a half to explain the rules. And their goal, as you read the introduction, is that these 2 designers in the COVID lockdowns wanted to make a bunch of different dice games that all have like legitimate strategic thought into it. And I showed you a few of them.
3 of them.
Ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've read a few more since then. I do kind of want to play them again. But like the first one, it's overly simple. I tell you how it works. Yeah. It's basically if you roll ones, they count as strikes. If you get 3 strikes, you bust. Other than that, anything that you roll and it's not a 1, you count it as a point. And so your first one to a certain number of points wins.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't bad. But then the second one, where you're trying to roll different sets of numbers, and you set aside the grouping. So like, let's say I roll 3 3s, a 4, and 2 5s, right?
Yeah.
I'm rolling 6 dice total. You choose any one group of numbers, and you have to set aside all of them of that number. So I'd probably put aside my 1 4. So you want smaller groups. Then you re-roll everything else. I can no longer set aside 4s for the rest of that round. That's the catch.
I did like this one.
Yeah, and so you're setting aside the groups, and each different group will count as cumulative more points.
Yeah.
1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21 if you get all 6. And it's a press your luck, so you can stop at any time and score the number of sets you have. But if you ever roll and you roll only numbers that you've rolled previously and set aside, then you bust.
Yeah.
I like Martian dice a lot, and this was reminiscent of that, like a simple version of Martian dice, and so that was really fun.
Okay.
Then there was Swopportunity, which I showed you as well.
That was a nice one,
where you had like 1 locked, and you're just in one person's the dealer. You roll 2 dice, everybody else has to roll 2 dice and beat that number, but you have the opportunity to swap different dice and
try to make it more difficult for someone else.
Make it more difficult for somebody else, or just to try and beat that number, or
choose. You know what? Give them a point. This way, I can take that 6 to make me a better chance of winning the next round.
Exactly. So there's a lot of good choice. And then there was one other that you and I played.
Bouquet.
Bouquet was the sets. It was Frenemies, where we would each roll 3 dice and we'd set aside one in between us.
Oh, yeah.
And then so those 2 dice that are set between us, we reveal it and that creates a number. Let's say you put 5 and I put a 3. That's a total of 8. But since you put the higher number, the other 2 dice you kept have to exceed 8.
Yep.
Since I put the lower number as the 3, mine has to be less than 8, so 7 or lower. And so you're trying to judge like what the opponent's going to put, what you can realistically put and likely win. And if it so happens that we put the same number, our total has to equal the number. Which so many times we just revealed it and like, no! Again. And so that was just like the first 4 of the games. And I haven't played many of the others since. But I was honestly really impressed.
That was pretty good. I liked it.
And I do look forward to playing more. So I will give absolute props to that. And I played them in order. So if they keep increasing in fun as they've been doing, then I can't help but just imagine at least. I'm sure there's some that aren't as fun as others.
Yeah. But that's also subjective too.
Yeah.
I could like one game and you don't like it because of how our tastes are.
Exactly.
And vice versa. So
exactly. Even my kids liked it when we played it. And they're, one's a teenager and one's less.
Well, one's less, but she they're
she acts like a teenager.
Yeah, I was gonna say that she's like 10 going on 30.
Yeah. It's just 16 right now. Going on 16.
There you go.
Yeah. No, it was a fun collection of games so far, and I'm looking forward to playing more.
All right, cool.
That's Random Fun Generator.
So my last one is a bit of a cheat because it's actually 2 games, but I have to explain.
Mine was top 21, so don't worry. You're fine.
One has to be explained before I talk about the other one.
Yeah.
So the first one is we played Role Player.
Yes.
The reason we played Role Player, one, I played with all the expansions, everything that was going for it, because we were actually generating our characters to finally start a campaign for Role Player Adventures. Gotcha. And that's the game that I really want to talk about. But yeah, we played Role Player, built everything, got our points, recorded everything, and then the next week I brought over Role Player Adventure, and it was very simple. Your created character to go over there. You just plug and play your points. If you were 0 to 13 in your attribute in one area, then you get a 0 for that attribute. It's 1 through 3 for your starting character. Yeah. And you can increase later on. There's certain things that you do. This game was really good. I really enjoyed it. So everybody knows Gloomhaven's my favorite game of all time. I love Gloomhaven. This gives you that campaign itch, but does something different than Gloomhaven. Because Gloomhaven, you're picking your cards, you're battling, you're doing. So this is your typical dungeon crawl. This one is more of a story, like the overarching Dungeons and Dragons. You're exploring a map, you're using your characters, and there's no turn-based really. So you're basically going what the storybook is telling you, and then you're making choices as a team. Well, I can give this because we only have a limited dice pool. So this one is going to test strength and charisma. So I can give strength as my best action. I can give one of my strength staminas to help us with this attack, putting a specific die of that color. So all the attributes are color-coded. Okay. And so strength is red. I'm giving a red die. Anytime you don't put anything over there, you just get random dice. Okay. But when you're doing skill checks or combat checks, you have to match certain things when you're rolling the dice. If you're doing a skill check, you have to meet it right then and there. And it tells you, if you're going to do the skill check, these are the dice that you're going to need in there. So we got to be careful. If we don't have the stuff for it, we're going to have to draw random dice and hopefully get the ones we need. Gotcha. But there's ways around it. So because we played with the Familiars expansion, they have double colored dice. So mine is blue-green, someone else is red and white. Well, if we need a white die, he's like, okay, I can play one card. I'm going to play this to get the red and white die out of the bag. This way I can add it, roll it, and see if we get this function. Okay. And so it helps us go along, and there's ways to mitigate it, and you're exploring, and you're making choices, and the person who's the storyteller, because it passes, that's the first player marker. It passes every round. they're tiebreakers. So if you're playing a 4-player game and one person's saying this, or like me and the storyteller are saying one thing and the other two are saying something else, the storyteller could be like, you know what, no, we're doing the thing that we want to do, but it doesn't get overpowered. So like if they were the only person reading, then yeah, it'd be too much power of the storyteller. But the fact that it changes each round, now the other two have the power if they're like-minded. So I like that aspect because cool. It allows us to still explore the story. And then even after you're done with the story, so this game is built to only do 12 stories.
Okay.
11 main chapters and 1 side quest. And you just keep going. Once you hit to the end, you can explore the map that you're on. You know, try to get some extra stuff, or you notice, hey, I got this and this, I can use it to do this, and get something special. And you're trying to curry favor for the king, or you're trying to curry favor for occult type people, the Starlight Door or something like that. Or the invading army you're trying to curry favor. And if you're currying favor on one, sometimes you're making favor drop with another. It's very intriguing. There's a lot of good choices. And the thing is, it's not infinitely replayable, but you can play it differently each time. Nothing gets marked down other than your sheets. And once you're done with that, you rip it off and you have a brand new sheet to play with.
Nice.
It highly recommends you play with pencils because you're always erasing stuff. When you're doing the storybook, if you have certain keywords, that story triggers. If you don't have those keywords, you keep going down a line until something triggers.
Gotcha.
It's really good. I really enjoyed it. And they've announced that they're going to release another expansion for this game. They released an expansion with the game on the original Kickstarter, and they're going to release one more towards the end of this year. Okay. So I'm looking forward to it. I really, really enjoyed it. We played 2 chapters of it, and it's already climbing my list. I don't think it's ever going to usurp Gloomhaven, but it's going to get up there. I really do enjoy it.
Interesting. Wow. All right. The last one I added to my list. The last one I want to talk about what I played recently. I only remembered about 5 minutes before we started filming, and I remember, and I pointed at you. I was like, I know what game it is, and that's because on Saturday I run the local game group.
Yeah.
I bought it on that Saturday. I learned how to play it, and I played it during that game group. And I normally don't have the opportunity to play games.
Yeah.
But I was really itching to try it. Rear Window. I played Rear Window from Prospero Hall, the new game, and like, how good can it be? It's an IP game, all that stuff.
Honestly, with Prospero Hall, their IP games are really good.
They are, right? But then at the same time, I was like, okay, it's an odd movie. I had just seen it like a couple weeks ago. I like the movie quite a bit, but it's an odd, older Hitchcock film. And it's basically Mysterium meets Mastermind, right?
Okay, yeah.
And when I first heard that description, I'm like, that doesn't make much sense. And you only play 4 rounds, and that... They have to figure out almost all this stuff within 4 rounds.
Yeah.
The biggest catch in this game is that the game will either be fully cooperative or it'll be the director versus everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that depends on if there's a murder. The catch of the game is that at no point do the players, the guessers, or the watchers, because they're watching the windows, they don't know if that is versus or cooperative. The director is the only one who knows, and it's set up by random because you have 13 attribute tokens, one which is the murderer. You're using 4 of those in the game. Yep. So if one of the murderers comes up, then it is you versus them. And the director only wins if they guess almost everything else and they have enough points, but then they don't correctly guess the murderer.
Okay.
That's the way that the director wins. Otherwise, the watchers win. But if it's fully cooperative, you have to get them to guess which characters are in which windows and which attributes they have. You have to get all 8 successful points. It ended up being where I was the director, just because I had read the rules, and it was fully cooperative. But they didn't know that.
Oh,
and those cards, so they're not as abstract as like a Mysterium or something like that. Yeah. They all have, like, sometimes they'll have blatantly the character that's in it. But it also has a bunch of items, like a broken mirror, or a gun, or, a piano, or... a baseball bat. And so they have to kind of put together the pieces that are a little on the nose, but you also still there's so many pieces to each picture that you can't know for sure unless you have the repetition. And sometimes the cards are just not there to have the repetition.
Yeah.
We ended up winning on day 3 of 4. So we won early. And I was the only one who had seen the movie. Our friend Dom was there, and he watched from behind because he was just curious how it works. he said that those type of games he wants to at least see somebody play it first before he delves in. He was super intrigued by it. I enjoyed it, and the other 3 players who had never heard anything about Rear Window absolutely loved it.
That's awesome.
And so much to the point that all the other 3 Watcher players said that was their favorite game of the night that they played.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I was thoroughly impressed. I cannot encourage you more than enough to get that game. Oh my goodness, that was really good.
Well, it's funny because I was just thinking about when you were talking the discussion, you're like, it's an IP game, no matter how good can it be. And I'm sitting there looking at like Prospero Hall. It's like Goonies Never Say Die. That one's good. Yeah. Back to the Future. That one's good.
Right. But there's a lot that are decent, right? Like a lot of Prospero Hall games are pretty good or decent or stuff. This was fantastic.
I don't know.
I enjoyed this a lot.
The Goonies is really good. A lot of these Prospero Halls that I have on my shelf there rate highly for me.
Right. The ones that you have on the shelf. But there's a lot like Robin Fury. You know.
I haven't played that one, so.
Yeah.
And then, but to see Ramen Fury, I don't know if that's an IP, but
no, I don't think it is.
And the other one that I didn't like,
Trapper Keeper,
the Caro, that's an IP.
That's right. Caro was. I like Caro.
I don't like Caro.
Yeah, I don't blame you for not liking it. But you see what I mean, though. Like, it's such an odd IP that, and we discussed this with NPC Aaron when he was on our podcast before, and it's such an odd IP that it doesn't seem like it would make sense, especially now with those mechanisms.
Yeah, exactly.
They use Mysterium, but not surrealist Mysterium.
Art,
it's pretty specific.
I love the art in that game, though.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it at Gamma. Yeah,
of Jimmy Stewart and all of the other actors and actresses. Yeah, and every character has their own ability, depending on which character you're in. Because you can place up to 2 of the cards face down, because if they're really bad, it's just not helpful. You can do that, right?
Yeah.
And some of the characters' abilities have the ability to look at the face-down ones or discard it and force you to play a face-up one. and it's intriguing because you have to play all 8 cards and you can only put up to 2 face-down. There was unfortunately one round where I had to put 2 face-down on the same character. And they were like, well, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Like, I was like, I mean, I can't tell you, but I just had garbage cards. Like, I had great cards for the other 3 characters. I just had nothing that would help for that one, so I had to just completely lock it out, and they just couldn't figure. Like they stressed out so hard because of that level, and it's like this is so difficult. And then, but luckily, I drew out my hand again. They forced me to play another card on it. They used that ability. They discarded one, and I had to force to play another one. And I got a good one. They're like, okay, here you go. That helped out. But at first, they were like almost sweating. It was so rough. It was really fun. I'm going to bring it to one of our game nights, and I think you'll like it a lot.
All right. Sounds good. I do want to make mention of something real quick before we get into our podcast topic. Sure. There's another game that we played, but I talk about it all the time, X-Men United. But I got to see your favorite X-Men played.
Oh, yeah, Dupe, huh?
Yeah, my wife is like, I want to play that character. It sounds interesting.
How did it work?
It's actually pretty cool. It's not bad. There's like certain abilities that it can do, and I can't remember exactly what it is. But if this is up, then that other person can get a random tile if they start in his location and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I enjoyed it. But I was like, I just looked at the box. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to mention to him that we played Dupe.
That's fun. I like that. I want to try. That's one of the few I want to try. So let's get into our honorable mentions. We talked about, and we'll go into our audience's honorable mentions as well. Again, these are games with 3D components, and that was a good question. Do miniatures count? In my honorable mentions, I will be honest. I specifically put games that use the 3D component as a feature of the game. It is really tough for me to put something like it. Yeah, if it's there aesthetically, like Siege of Rundar, I fell in love with that game. It would function as a 2D game just as easily.
Oh, right? Yeah.
There's no real reason to have it 3D.
Okay, I see where you're going with like the 2D part of it. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Like nothing against it, right? And I was talking to you about one game that I think you're going to have on your list, and I don't disagree with you. I get it. There is a 3D component, and it is...
And it's functional, and it's really good.
It's functional. It's just it doesn't necessarily need to be there. You know what I mean? It doesn't add to the gameplay. It doesn't detract from it by no means. But it doesn't add to it, in my opinion.
It adds
With that being said, I still got 6 games I put on here, so I got this die. And I'm only going to talk about 3, I promise. And I'm going to roll it, and I'll just talk about whichever number I want.
That's why you wanted a D6.
That's why I needed the D6. So there is a lot of really good games that have
So do you want to start with the audience honorable mention?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's give it a little quick refresh.
I also needed the D6 because I don't have a coin with me.
Oh, that would...
So we don't have a coin of Doom, we have a die of Doom.
All right, so we got to do this.
All right.
The first one on our list was added by Michael, and he put Return to Dark Tower. Now, we just had a discussion about this earlier when we were talking about it, and I'm like, there was a problem with that. And you're like, what? It's on. I saw it on the list. I'm like, no. You saw Dark Tower, the 1981 version on the list. This is not on there, and we actually went on Board Game Geek and actually looked on the Return to Dark Tower itself, and it's not in the 3D category.
Right, it has a thing called the Drop
Tower.
Yeah. And the Drop Tower is 3D, and functionally is technically right. But I also get why it's not on the list. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that. I was like, it technically doesn't need the tower, right?
Yeah.
But in the Return to Dark Tower, it does need the tower because of how it drops the skulls. So that is a legitimate 3D component.
The actual regular Dark Tower, the tower, you had a little thing that you had to punch certain codes into it for it.
But that could have been flat on the board, technically.
It could have, yeah.
It wouldn't have been anywhere near as fun, but it could have been.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the reason, because it was functional for the game to work. You can't play the game if that tower's not working. And technically, you can't with this one either. But
in the spirit of it, I completely do agree with Michael. It should be on the list.
I agree, because I was like, why is this not on the list? I saw Dark Tower, Return to Dark Tower, because I wanted to put it on my honorable mentions.
Exactly. And then Kristen added Manara, which is the cooperative version of Via Paletti, basically. Manara is awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we got a chance to play it, and it's awesome. It's really good. So clearly it's on somebody's list. And I think that's the only two that were added.
Yep.
And then all the comments just clarify that, the minis that we were talking about as well.
Yeah, there was a comment, someone mentioning that is technically any game with a mini. We mentioned that earlier. Uh-huh. The next one up is Kylan says he hasn't played Everdell. Everdell is one of the games on our list. But does the tree provide any function, or is it just aesthetics? And someone was answering that question. We'll get to that when we do.
Yes. And we completely agree with Michael, who responded, and we will add to that during our debate, because that will be a discussion topic.
Yep.
All right. With that being said, let's see who goes first. Let's say 1, 2, 3 is Tails. All right, I'll be starting us off. So the game I want to talk about as my honorable mention is Tumbling Dice. So Tumbling Dice, I mean, you and I both know it. We've played a massive version of Tumbling Dice made with like insulation foam.
And blew up
giant inflatable dice and stuff. Yeah. Hilarious game. Super fun. It needs that 3D board because that's what makes the dice tumble.
Yeah.
Great components. Absolute riot to play. And the fact that since you're launching them down those tiles that step down, you can knock other players' dice off.
Yeah.
The level that you land on is how many points.
Multiplied by the pips.
It's multiplied by the pips that you roll. You can even hit your own dice, hoping to get a higher number. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, this would not work in a 2D setting. This only works 3D, and it works beautifully. I have no more to say of it. Tumbling Dice.
Oh, Tumbling Dice is amazing. Yeah. I really love that game. I have a made board by a friend of ours who made the board for me. Uh-huh. I like the Eagle Griffin board? I think that's who had it, where it kind of slides together. Uh-huh. That's pretty nice. Mine doesn't, but I really enjoy my personal board because it's got the symbol of the great. It's got the symbol of the Great Jedi on there.
Right. And mine's Star Trek theme. So, the same friend made one for me, and we are eternally grateful.
Yeah, they're great. All right, moving on to my first honorable mention. I don't know. You find this game okay. We have played it. It's a good game. I really enjoy it. And this one, it's more decorative than functional but it makes sense for what it's doing. And this is Cape May by Thunderworks Games.
Yeah.
And so you have your Victorians.
That is 100% just aesthetic.
It's aesthetic, but it also makes sense because you could have used cardboard pieces for like the third layers as you're going up, but they just wouldn't make as much sense as they do in this game with the 3D print or the plastic pieces. Because you upgrade from cardboard to the molded pieces, and then you upgrade the houses to Victorians. You put the little fence around them, and it just aesthetically it looks really nice. It makes sense functionally as well what you're trying to do.
Sure.
And you're going around the board. You can make your choice. You have cards that you're playing around the board. You have to move for movement. So the 1, 2, and 6, 7, you have to pay to move as fast or as slow as you want. 1 and 7 are 2 golds each, and the 2 and the 6 are 1 gold each. But there's abilities where, like, hey, I don't have to pay for those anymore if I use the 2 and the 6 because I have this ability now. You have area control based on where you're putting it in, there is some aesthetic parts of that where you and me have issues with I think it's the dirt in the grass lots compared because the sand lots are really nice. The beachy ones, it's like the yellow, yeah. And then the
home run was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But yeah, Cape May, it's a really good game. I love the aesthetic of it. I enjoy it a lot. It's probably up there, but it's not one of my favorite Thunderworks games, but it is good. I like Tenpenny Park more than Cape May.
I do agree with that, yeah.
But Cape May, I had to go on this list because I do enjoy it. And again, it's more decorative, but it does have its aesthetics.
Sure. That makes sense. All right, the next one I wanted to talk about was Manhattan. It was the Spiel des Jahres winner. That one absolutely...
The one time he rolls high on dice.
Right, exactly. That's you. If you roll for me, you'll roll my one again. No, Manhattan is a very simple game. Basically, you play a card that will tell you on one point of a 3x3 grid where you can place a building. There's 6 grids total on the board, and you can place it on any of those. So if I play a card that lets me build on the top left corner of a grid, that's based on my perspective, I can place on the front left corner of any one of the 6 grids that's on there.
Okay.
However, I'm building up vertically on the buildings that are there, and I can only place buildings. I have either 1, 2, 3, or 4 levels, I believe, and I have to exceed the total number of building or levels that the highest player has. So if you have 5 floors and I have 2, I have to play at least a 3 or higher, or maybe I have to exceed. I don't remember off the top of my head. But that one, without 3D components, it wouldn't work because you have to see each of the individual levels. You have to be able to functionally count them. And, I mean, it looks really good because these skyscrapers are pretty massive on the board. Not only that, the player who plays the topmost piece gains control of those. You get points for area majority, you gain points for height, and you gain points for the tallest single skyscraper. So that's really fun. There's a lot of cool components going on in it. It looks pretty. It's always been one of my favorite games. I see why it... I think it was... Spiel winner, if I'm not mistaken. I think like 1994 or 6 or something like that.
You're better knowledgeable of that than I am.
I believe it's the 90s. But yeah, it's a fantastic game, Manhattan.
Yeah, I've never played this one, so I can't really make this topic on it, really, or a discussion on it. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's really fun. And what's even funner is that you can play with a variant where there's a kaiju monster running around. And the direction, like let's say that example I played earlier.
Yeah.
Not only would I build a building in the up left corner, wherever the kaiju monster is, they move up and left of wherever they are. And so they wrap around the board and they Pac-Man. And anytime they enter a space with any buildings, those are gone.
Oh,
it's
man.
hilarious. And so you could have like this massive building and it's just it's gone. Because if you make yourself a target early, then well, sorry. Yeah. That's all your fault, not ours. Yeah, it's absolutely funny. It's a riot for how it works.
All right, so the next game on my list is one that we were talking about that it could functionally as a 2D more, but
yeah.
I went for fun, and if it was on this list. So for me personally, it is Celestia. It's the boat. That's the 3D. Everything else is cards. And tiles, the places you're going is tiles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, you're going on tiles and you're picking up cards from.
Yeah. But the main thing is the boat. In fact, your other 3D pieces are just little pawns.
Right. Exactly.
But I love this game. It's a push your luck. You're trying to keep going as far as you can on this space blimp thing. It's like boat blimp. I don't know how to describe it. It looks like the treasure planet kind of. Yeah. It's like steampunk almost.
Yeah.
And so you're pushing your luck. You got to roll these dice and you got to play cards to match the symbols on the die. This way you can keep going. And it's like the first few is just you only have to roll 1 die, but then you keep going. Then you got to roll 2 dice and you. And the thing is that everybody's on the boat. Whoever's leading. So if I'm the one leading, everybody's got to decide. Does he have those cards to play?
Right.
Or should I jump ship now this way I can get some points?
Right, and hope for the best.
And then there's cards abilities that you can have where you can have a jetpack and jump off and be like, oh, we're going to crash? Not me! Because I got my jetpack. We're good. So I love this game. It makes me giggle every time. Yeah. And if for a small box game, it holds up to 6 players. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
Not a lot of these games hold up to, like, 4 is the sweet spot for most of these games.
Right. So I agree with you, and I disagree, of course, like to an extent, because the 3D component of it's not so much necessary, but it doesn't get in the way. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because everything. Speaking of Sandlot, I keep going. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it makes perfect sense whether you're on that or not. Like, it could technically be just a cardboard piece or a card, right?
Yeah.
But there's a really good signal. It's like the LED candles in a Night Cage. It's like not necessary, but it's a really good, useful. It is useful.
Yeah.
For a quick reference, if you're either visually on the card or not, that is a good signifier. So I don't completely disagree with that one. It's not entirely that I agree, but I don't.
Yeah. But the thing is, for me, when I did this list, I was like, okay, this game's on there, this game's on there. Yes. I went with what game are fun that fits this list.
Yeah, your favorite.
My favorites of this one, not for me for the functional purpose, because I'm like, we're going to argue the functional stuff during the debate, so I'm just going to play what I'm going to put on here. That's what's the most fun for me to play.
All right, sounds good. And the last one I wanted to talk about today was one out of all 6 of the ones that I came up with. Probably uses the 3D component in the best, most functional way.
Wait. Why are you going? You didn't roll the die.
I just rolled a 3. I did it while you were talking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, 1, 2, 3 is me.
Oh, I thought we were just going back and forth.
Oh, okay, fine.
Well, calm down, sir. You already did your 3, didn't you?
No, I have one more.
Okay, well then I'll finish this off. Because I've already talked about Tolman. Yeah, this is my 3rd one.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway. No, yeah, this one makes the most sense, though. It absolutely has a 3D function, and it would not work in a 2D world, because you are building a planet. It's called Planet, has magnetic tiles, and you have...
I mean, technically it could work in a 2D world.
No, it really can't, because, like, the way the sides have to wrap together...
I knew this was going to be on your list.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, there is almost no better example of a 3D functional game, is because... you have pentagonal tiles that wrap together on a 12-sided shape, dodecahedron, and the only way that works is by knowing where all these sides fit together.
Yeah.
And unless you, like, unfold it and put it down, which you're not going to know, like, oh, well, this side has 3 spaces over, it connects to that. Nah. Nobody's going to really do that. Nobody has time for that. So the magnetic way is the only way for it to work. And all you're trying to do is get areas and get them connected in different ways. And it's a really simple drafting game that works really well. Out of a lot of the blue-orange games that they make, like the big family games, this is easily one of my favorite, because how simple that is, how good the production value is, and how cool it is at the end of the game where you have built a globe of different environments. I love that game. It's so fun. It works really well, and I could not be more happy about it. And just to give a shout out of the other 3 real quick, I'm not going to say how they work, but I had Rampage, Pylos, and Wonderbook was my other 3.
I don't know Pylos, but the other 2, those are fine.
Yeah, it's a marble pyramid thing. You're trying to be the last person to put your marble on top.
Yeah. You would.
Yep, it's one of the wooden, like, things
I figured it was. Again, because it's ugly as sin.
How is it ugly? It's just nice, pretty wooden pieces. There's no art at all.
Because it's ugly.
What? That was made out of, like, chintzy plastic. Like, you can see where, like, the molding plastic was broken off and the seams and stuff. Yeah, I'll give you that. Made out of, like, unshapen marble.
I'll give you your ugly game there, Pylos, and I'll show you an abstract strategy game that's actually gorgeous.
Oh, wow. That's not on the top list.
It's kind of like abstract, but not really. It's cooperative. Dexterity.
Oh, yes. We talked about this earlier.
Manara.
Yep.
We played this recently. Our mutual friend brought it over for one of the game nights, and you and me were like, okay, let's try this. I heard really good things about it. I really enjoyed this game. It was great. It was a really good game. It's like these big chunky wooden pieces you're trying to build up to a certain level. Just depends. The game decides what level it's going to be. So for like easy, it's like 4 mode. But if certain things happen, it could be like, oh no, we got to build it up to the 5th level and stuff like that. No. We can't let it collapse. Got to be very careful how we're doing this. And then you get like a choice of cards. It could be easy or hard, and you got to use your colored pieces to put on the colored spots on the thing. and it tells you what levels you have to build it on, and it gets more and more difficult as you go along. It's so good. I really enjoyed what it was, and I'm like, I didn't know if I would like a co-op dexterity game.
Right. No, co-op dexterity is surprisingly intense.
Yeah.
And because you're all rooting for it. Like, there was another cooperative dexterity game that I remember seeing not too long ago, and you're all just like, oh my gosh, okay, I think it might have been a flicking game of some kind.
Yeah.
And I see people play it, and it's because you're rooting for them. You're rooting for your team. You want them to do good, and you're so invested into how they perform that it's like, and how well you can attempt to help them. It's brilliant how it works.
And what's funny about this one is that it basically gave a co-op mode to something like Rhino Hero in a sense. You're building pieces. You're building like sculptures, I guess is what the thing is.
Something like that. I don't know. Via Paletti was abstracted as well.
Yeah, so it's so good. I really, really enjoyed this one. And when I saw this on the list, it was the first one I put down. I'm like, yeah, that's going to probably be my number one. Mm-hmm. Just because it's that good. I understand why it's so high, like on not Tom Vessel, Z Garcia's list. Yes. He's always talking about it. And I'm glad our friend brought it over to the point where, like, if I can find this on a deal, I'd pick it up for myself. I really enjoyed it.
The only thing is, the only reason I haven't bought it or considered buying it is because I have Via Paletti already, and they're more or less the same thing. Just one's against each other, one's rooting for each other, but they're functionally.
Well, I'd rather have the co-op than because I'll play Rhino Hero.
I agree.
A stacking game to fight against them.
Right, I don't disagree. Which brings us to our list. Today we have the top 8 highest ranked on Board Game Geek. Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to segue there, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah, I just kind of cut right into it because you're like, speaking of Rhino Hero, because that's on our list. We're talking about the top 8 highest ranked games on Board Game Geek that have 3D components listed as one of their categories on their family that you and I have both played.
Yep.
Daniel, explain to them why it matters that we both played it.
Before we can have a sound argument, the fact of the matter is, if you've only played one, what was one of the games on your list that you've only played?
Manhattan.
I can't make an argument for that. And you saw it earlier. I'm like, I can't make a decision on that because I've never played it. I don't know. Right. Functionally, I understand how it works, but how am I going to get that engrossment from it and make a sound argument against it if I had to vote against it? So,
yeah, exactly. It's good reasoning. So we want to make sure that we both can argue against it because we normally flip the coin of doom. Today's going to be the die of doom, and we see who argues which side, and we want to have it a fair debate because that's what this is all about: is finding out which of these is the best of those.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have 5 different criteria that we rank these games on, and each of those criteria help us determine which of those is the best. So, for example, the first one is ease of play. How simple it is to play, simplicity and familiarity with the mechanisms. If you re-implement something that everyone's familiar with, then it's deck building or roll and move even. It's easy to do. A Yahtzee mechanism, that's a common thing. Area control. What is the likelihood of getting it to the table, both with either theme or the mechanisms, and which is a detractor. What is the likelihood that it's prone to analysis paralysis? And that's what that term means. Is that do the choices hinder your ability to think, mainly? Like, are you given too many choices or not enough choices where you freeze up because you're like, there's so much to consider? That, like, you see all the people, the grandmasters playing chess, and they're just staring at a board and no one looks like they're having fun. That's analysis paralysis.
So that's the big one for me because you play a lot of games with, like, min-maxers.
Yep.
If the game has so much choices, they'll sit there for 5 minutes when it's their turn and everybody just kind of checks out.
Yeah.
The next one on our list is replay value. This is the length of time of the game and scaling well. Are the game times relatively the same? Case in point, I have a new game, Terra Mystica, that says 30 minutes per player. That means if you're playing a 4-player game, that's a 2-hour based on the box. Minimum. So, yeah, a 2-player game versus a 4-player game is not scaling well. No. And again, length of time too. If I can play a full game in, say, 45 minutes, it's done a good job.
Yeah, that's worth our time.
A minimum number of plays for the full experience. How many times do I have to play the game for me to fully get the experience in this game? Is it based on the card pulls? Is it based on the combinations? Stuff like that. And expandability. And what we mean by this is already existing expansions, up to one possible future expansions. If it has a Volume 1, we're assuming there's going to be a Volume 2. Right. Or expansions that have been confirmed by a designer or a publisher. We mentioned Wingspan a lot for this one. They've said they're going to release for every single continent.
Yep. All right, and the next one is meaningful choice. How well can you impact the other player's strategy? Or are you playing multiplayer solitaire, which is another term that is used fairly often? How well can you impact your own long-term strategy, or are you playing specifically tactically? And also, do you make arbitrary choices in the game? That's always another detractor. If I can sit there and because I have too many good options or not enough good options, that my choice will not factor into my play. I just could play at random and do just as well as anything else. That's a detractor for it. We want to have that meaningful choice going into the game.
Mm-hmm. And our fourth criteria is game immersion. Does the game fit the category best or the theme matching the mechanism? So for us in this one, is the 3D component the game is known for, that we're going to talk about, is it functional or is it decorative?
Yes.
Also, player interaction is the other sub-criteria for this, and that's including getting into the role-playing, the table talk,
right.
the trash-talking that can be brought out in some games.
How well do you feel like you're coming into the storyline or the concept of the game?
Yep. And finally, the memorable moments, the things that make you stand up and shout in front of a crowded game group to make everybody turn and look at you, and then get embarrassed by it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, before we get going, I mentioned that to our friend, the one who did it too, that we use this as criterion. He just turned like red. And he's like, "You guys suck."
Yeah, it happens. But I mean, also, and one of my favorite memories was playing a 12-player version of Happy Salmon at a convention. There was like a 2,000-person gaming hall, and everyone stopped to watch us. Like, I'm talking people 15 tables away stopped their game to watch us across the hall because they thought a riot was happening. It was hilarious. I love memorable moments like that. And then the last criteria is art and production. Now, this is going to be a big one, actually, with this, more than most because the pieces and components are 3D components. We're arguing specifically about components here. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be one of the biggest factors in this game, in this argument. And, of course, the art, does it complement it as well? Or is the art completely different than the components themselves and take away from it? And finally, as always, graphic design. We've said this before. We'll say it again. Daniel and I are colorblind. If your game is not colorblind friendly, we're going to throw you to the wolves because that's not okay anymore.
Yeah, especially because there's a high percentage of Americans matter, and I know Europeans
4% of men are colorblind.
Yep.
That is not nothing.
Yeah.
1 in 25 men are colorblind.
And to say, I don't want to say it too bad, but this is also a highly male-dominated hobby. We need to be more welcoming for other people. But but even then, there's like a percentage of women that are colorblind too.
Yeah. There was a game that you and I played like a couple weeks ago, and we were so excited for it, and then we found out that there was like there's like little circles of color in parts of it. You remember what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
And we're like, man, we like this, but man, that's art. That's so tough.
Oh, it was the Runestone game. It's like the deck builder.
Yeah, the deck builder by Rudiger Norn.
Yeah, that was so rough.
Yeah, it was tough because it had exactly that. It wasn't colorblind friendly. So anyway, graphic design, big factor.
Yeah.
Also, iconography. Is it usable, functional? Does it make sense? That's all a factor playing into it.
And finally, this is not really one of our criteria, but is very important.
Yes.
If we cannot come to a consensus with all that stuff that we just talked about, then it comes down to you. So join us on the Board Game Revolution community. It's not ours. We're using someone else's community, but we always put a poll on there because it's a very active community.
Yes.
Therefore, you can help decide which moves on, because if we can't come up with it, it's tied, it's a wash. We don't want to argue anymore. You decide what moves on based on what you voted.
Good deal. So, let's get into it. We're going to have our quarterfinals right now. We're going to do the top seed. We haven't listed the games. Let's do that first. Our number 1 seed, we have Everdell.
Versus our number 8 seed, Rhino Hero Super Battle.
Specifically the Super Battle.
Yep.
Our number 2 seed, Santorini.
Versus our number 7 seed, Torres.
Our number 3 seed, Takinoko.
Versus our number 6 seed, Camelot.
And our number 4 seed, Colt Express.
Versus our number 5 seed, Emotep. Just a quick clarification for the Rhino Hero Super Battle. We have played both Rhino Hero and Rhino Hero Super Battle. We have a rule that we implemented, mind you, whichever one is higher is the one that gets voted with. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why Rhino Hero Super Battle is in, but we have played both, so it didn't matter anyway. Yeah. But had we only played Rhino Hero, it would have been that, probably.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, let's get into our first round. Daniel, you'll be starting us off, and you'll be arguing
Everdell.
All right.
At least I like both these games, so this is quite different than some of
Hold on. That was a snarky comment, sir. Are you implying that I don't like these games?
No, but I was... If you let me clarify what I was going to say, usually when we do like the 1 into 8, I don't like the 8 seed or I don't like the 1 seed.
That's true. Okay.
It's like, what is going on usually with these seedings? Yeah. But this one is like, I actually enjoy both these games. I'd be happy if both of them move on.
Right.
So Everdell, let's just talk about the elephant in the room real quick.
Yes. So the 3D component
is the tree.
There's
a nice version of it over there you can't see behind it. Both of them are actually over there. I got the wood one and the cardboard one. First off, it's a pain in the butt to take down and put back up, so I keep mine up and just put them on my bookshelf over there.
Yeah, so you and I like to combine like expansions and stuff into the same box. Yeah. You can't even put the base piece in the box.
Yeah. It is nice. It's nice to look at. It's in fact, it was one of the reasons why I wanted to try this game so much is because I walked by it in the convention, I saw that tree, and I'm like, oh, what is that? But the tree is not functional at all, really. It's actually a hindrance because if you're playing a 4-player game and so you have it set up where it's in the center of the table and you have one player here, one player here, one player there on the 4 sides of the table, the player that's sitting behind the tree cannot see the board.
Yeah.
So much
as one does when players are sitting behind trees.
Well, normally when we play 4 players, we're on either side of the table because I have.
What I'm saying is that we don't tend to sit behind trees while playing board games.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
To the point where in an expansion, they added a board piece where you just put it at the top of the board and it functions as the tree. So that's going to hurt this in the long run.
No.
Do I think it's a bad game? Heck no. That's the reason why
it's a great game.
It's this highly rated. It's really good. You're playing over 3 seasons. You're trying to get your creatures, your city, you're building your own city ready for winter. You're trying to get all your wives and your husbands together for the farmers. You're trying to get your resources to put cards out there, get your city function before winter comes in, get the most points, make the queen mouse and the king mouse happy. It's phenomenal. It's a nice little engine builder with worker placement. When you go into the next season, you get a new worker. There's a lot going on. Plays very well. It's actually very thinky game for what it is. But component-wise, everything's great but the tree, and that's the reason why it's on this list.
And the thing is, the tree is great looking.
Yeah.
It's just counterproductive.
Yeah. So the point when we play Everdell, mainly we sit on both sides of the table, so we don't sit on the 4 corners, and I guess you could say. And it works fine then, because you have a place to put the cards. They're tucked into the base of the tree. You get little 3D printed. I seen some people do like 3D printed acorns where you can put the gold cards because they're what's supposed to sit on the tree. Those are all nice and functional, but what we had to do is we had to slide it all the way to the back end of the table, put the tree up against the wall, and then play the game out. That gives us a little bit more room to play our 3x5 grid. And it does well. The art is great in this game. The pieces and components are great in this game. I love the fact that you interchange certain things. So there's worker placement spots that are different every game from game to game. You're not going to see all the cards in one game because there is multiples of stuff, but there is some of the cards, there's only like 1 or 2 of them. Like there's only 1 queen, there's only 1 king. And you want to get the king's castle or the queen's throne and stuff like that to help give you more bonus points. You're only going to see those every so often. You're just hoping to get through the card deck. Not to mention, it's got a plethora of expansions. There's 1, 2, 3, I think 5 expansions. Yeah. 2 aren't out yet. Yeah. It's 4. No, yeah, it's 5 expansions because it's Pearlbrook, Spirecrest Belfair, and then the most recent 2 that haven't arrived yet.
Cool.
So, yeah. So for me, I would want to say Everdell to move on, but then it's going up against Rhino Hero Super Battle. So go ahead.
So my counter argument. I first off, 100% agree with everything you said. I want that to be known because I do think Everdell is probably very much legitimately a better game. Unfortunately, that's not what we're arguing.
No.
We are debating specifically games with 3D components. And by that criteria alone, I think Rhino Hero should move on. Because you are building each levels of floors, either half floors or full floors, by how you're building those out. They're nice, thick cardboard tiles. Mm-hmm. It is a dexterity game as you're trying to build upward, trying to move your pieces up, and you're climbing this rickety tower that you are all communally building. The 3D is there. It only lives in a 3D world. Yeah. It has a table presence better than a wooden tree, and that tree is great.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous, and I love the art in Everdell, and the pieces are fantastic. But it is negatively productive to have that tree. Everdell is better without that component.
It really is.
And therefore, I think Rhino Hero should move on. I don't want to belabor it anymore. I can't in good conscience move on Everdell, knowing that the thing that we're arguing is the biggest detractor of that game.
All right, so I agree with you. Rhino Hero Super Battle should move on. I do, however, have a question for you.
Yes.
Which do you prefer, Super Battle or regular Rhino Hero?
Probably regular Rhino Hero.
I'm with you on that. But
yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I like Super Battle.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you have your own characters that you're messing with.
Yeah.
But Rhino Hero is just so much simpler,
right.
So much more fun. You don't have to worry about like the 4 corners of everything,
right. Exactly.
moving things around. It's just very simple. You play a card. If it has the hero on it, you move it up.
And I want to be clear. Like we're looking right here. Everdell was definitely popular among the votes, mm-hmm. and our listeners, please keep that in mind before you tear us to shreds, because you're absolutely right. It is probably functionally a better game. But
Everdell's a better game.
I will we're arguing.
Handily say Everdell is a better game.
For gamers.
I'll give you that.
Because I think like non-gamers, like families and stuff,
yeah.
I do think Rhino Hero is a better game for them.
But non-gamers are not going to listen to this podcast, so we're talking to the gamers. True. Everdell is a better game.
Yes.
But Rhino Hero Super Battle is the better game for this category.
Yes. Yep, and this first round is when we have to kind of knock the penalties for the game itself.
Yeah.
Does the 3D component add to the game or not? If it doesn't add to the game, then that's going to be hard for it to pass on. We'll argue the good games later on, but that's something that we need to keep in mind. So Rhino Hero Super Battle moves on. Our next round will be our number 2 seed, Santorini, versus our number 7 seed, Torres.
You know what I find hilarious about this?
What's that?
Both of these games are very similar.
They very much are, yes. And Daniel, I'll be arguing first.
I hope you get one, because you know it better than I do.
We'll find out. I do know more of them quite a bit.
You get Santorini.
Alright, so, apologies. Mm-hmm. So Santorini, technically it's a 2-player, theoretically a 3-player, but let's be real, it's a 2-player game.
It's 2-player.
Yeah, so nobody's really saying it's 3-player. It's a 2-player game.
Yeah.
But this game was made many years ago, mm-hmm. and Roxley reprinted it into the beautiful version that it is now. Yeah. And so you're building up the buildings of Santorini. They are 3-level buildings, technically up to 4, but not that you can stand on. They're 3-level buildings. There's the base, there's the middle, and then there's the top part, and there's a little dome that you can put on top of it if you need to. Your goal is to get your player piece up to the 3rd level of any tower. Mm-hmm. That will let you win. You can move orthogonally adjacent, so up, down, left, or right, following a wall, and you can place pieces down. Those are your basic actions. You can only build up to 1 level higher. So if I wanted to build a 2nd level, I have to go up onto a 1st level somehow and build it. But the catch is, so can everybody else. Mm-hmm. So everyone else is kind of the other players in kind of a mad dash to kind of stay near you, and not get so advanced that you can't do what you're trying to do. Because you can't move into the same piece as the other players. Yeah. And they can also lock you off by putting the domes and making that tower completely useless for everybody.
Yep.
And that's a cool little block. What makes this game really sweet as far as how it works is that every player can play with one of the Greek or Roman gods, and that has their own special ability. And Roxley's made a lot of different abilities. So it took a legitimately good abstract strategy game, and added variable player powers that feel balanced, mostly. It's really solid how it works.
It's so balanced that every player power is so powerful, it feels like it's overpowered.
Right. And then if everything's overpowered, it's equal.
It's equal.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Because, like, some characters could just move diagonal. Some can jump up multiple levels. Some can block other players.
Yeah.
It all works really well, so much that they re-implemented it into Santorini, New York. Stupidest name ever. But Santorini... I fell in love with this game when I first played it. I thought it was a phenomenal thing, and I'm a fan of abstract, so I'm a little biased. But this, other than the theme, it made perfect sense as to how you played, and it's a very simple concept.
Yeah, it's one of the few abstract strategy games that are actually on my shelf. I don't really have a lot.
No,
I'm just trying to figure out where I put it.
It's right there.
Oh, okay. Actually, I think it's on this side.
Okay, I'll look for it while you talk.
But I really enjoyed it. It's actually one of the more beautiful games out there. I'll say this about Roxley. They produce some of the prettiest games out there. They have a Battle Yahtzee, and you can see it right behind me over here, version. I have the Marvel version. A Battle Yahtzee that is spectacular. But going on to Taurus. Now, when it comes to like the pieces and components on this, Taurus has some nice stuff, but it's not going to touch Santorini.
Are you sure you have it?
Yeah, I have it. It's down there, I think.
Okay, well, no, keep talking. I'll figure it out, but...
Yeah, I do have it, but I'll talk about it or worry about it later. I know I have it because the wife gave it to me for Christmas, and I did not get rid of it. In fact, you showed me my version.
Okay.
So anyways, Taurus. The big thing about this one is I don't remember it a lot. I do remember what you were explaining too, is that you're building components. It's in the same aspect. It's right above Everdell, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're building this the same thing. You can only go as high as what you have connected. So if you're building 3 level, or like if your level is 3, you can only go 3 stories high.
Right, exactly.
And so I can't remember what's the end game goal.
I don't remember the end game. I think it's when pieces can't be put out anymore.
Yeah.
But all of the different groupings can never be combined. And so, you're
trying to get the most points, basically.
Right.
It's a bit of an area control, so you're trying to control those the stories, the levels, the groupings as much as you can, and you're trying to be the person, I think it's like at the highest point, just kind of like Santorini, where you need to get to the 3rd level to win. This one, you want to be at the highest of a grouping. This way you can control it because you can get the most points.
Right, exactly. And so I believe that the scoring works out to essentially the area of squares that you take up multiplied by the height of the highest point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be the score of that building, and it goes to whoever is the highest point on that building.
Yeah. And so it's a fine game. I remember playing it. It's been, 3 years since we played this one?
It was a Spiel des Jahres winner.
That's the main reason why we played it. You're like, I got it. We need to try it. We need to play it. It was fine. I think Santorini is a better game. It has better components. It's much prettier. Like, if I put both of these on a table and people are playing it, they're going to be more gravitate toward Santorini just because of the starkness of the white buildings.
Yeah, the white buildings, the dark
against the
blue
brown
domes.
and yellows of Taurus.
Right.
So, for me, I think Santorini should move on. One, I remember it a lot more, and it's been a while since I played Santorini, too, and I just remember it. And the reason why I remember it is because the variable player powers. They're just so good.
I was just about to say that. I think what really sets Santorini above Torres, and there's nothing wrong against Torres, because I do like it a lot, but what sets Santorini different is how different those variable player powers are and how memorable they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very similar to the same game,
Yeah, exactly. Except for one, you want more points, whereas the other one, you want to be on the third tower.
Third tower. But the way that those player powers work, it works really well.
Yeah.
Pieces are prettier. If you got the deluxe version, you have that extra level tower, like the base, it looks like a floating island.
And just the box, the box cover alone.
Yep, the art on it, phenomenal.
So gorgeous.
So, Roxley, Santorini will move on.
And it will face Rhino Hero.
That will be an interesting argument. All right, our number 3 round will be our number 3 seed Takenoko versus our number 6 seed, Camel Up.
Hey, remember the 1 and 8? And I was like, hey, I like both of these games.
You like neither of these games. I like one of them.
Yeah, I know which one you like. I hope you don't argue it. Who's doing the...
Oh, yes. Yes, we should find out the argument. All right, I'll be arguing first.
Let's see, just make sure I pull the right one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you get Takenoko.
Okay, so I have to argue Takenoko. No, Takenuko's fine. It works well.
Honestly, let's do what we did with Everdell. Let's talk about the elephant in the room first.
Okay, so the 3D components are the bamboo. The bamboo does not need...
for the game for what it is.
It's super pretty. Mm-hmm. It looks great. Again, the chibis, the gardener and the panda, they look great. It does not need to be there. They don't. They functionally don't need to be towers of bamboo. Yeah. Aesthetically, they do need to be.
In Camel Up, people can say, like, well, the pyramid, but the pyramid drops what's coming out. So it's basically a drop tower.
The pyramid is not the 3D component of it. It's the stacking of the camels.
Well, the pyramid does count, too.
Yes, it's a 3D component, yes.
Because it's basically a drop tower.
But the stacking of the camels is where the 3D element come into play.
Yeah, I know.
But the drop tower, you're right. I mean, the pyramid's there and it's really cool. But
especially the second edition.
The second edition is much better, yeah. But, I mean, in all honesty, I want to argue Takenoko and give it a fair chance because it is a cool game because there's 3 different ways to score cards.
So if you're not going to talk about the elephant in the room, I will.
What?
Graphic design.
I know. I'm going to get to that. But no, the 3D bamboo is the reason it's on this list,
I get it.
And it's not functionally necessary.
Oh yeah, it's not functionally necessary.
It's aesthetically necessary. It is not functionally necessary.
Yeah, but it makes sense because you needed to get to a certain level.
It's less of an argument than Everdell. But Everdell at the same time, it's just like if you had just bamboo pieces, like cardboard pieces, and they laid flat, it would still functionally work the same way. But that beside, the way you score points in this game, you're trying to score cards for points. And the way you do it is by collecting bamboo, by eating it, by moving the panda to spots with bamboo, or moving the gardener to make it grow, or laying out different tiles that grow certain colors of bamboo, and having different patterns in there. So you score points in those 3 different ways. The way it works is you're going to take 2 standard actions, and you're going to take 1 action based on the weather die, which is kind of like a random action, but it's a bonus action that you get. Functionally, it makes sense. The gardener and the panda are moving in straight lines. Mm-hmm. You're growing bamboo. You have to have everything irrigated, so you can add water to irrigate different spots if the tile isn't irrigated, and it can't grow the bamboo that you necessarily need. Everything works. I don't enjoy the game anymore. But the biggest argument, light green, light pink, and whatever the other color is, it doesn't matter. We can't see it. How dare you? It is one of the least colorblind friendly games.
It's really bad.
You're more severe than I am, and I have a lot of trouble with it.
To the point where the first time I played this game, I thought I was setting myself up for scoring one type of bamboo or something like that to give me some good points.
Yeah.
And the cards were actually 3 different colors.
Yes.
And yeah, that sucked for me because, in fact, I lost the game because of that.
Yes.
I was just like, I was done. I haven't played it since. Now, I'll give you this. The giant version of Takenoko is a very pretty game because I saw it at Dice Tower West in 2019. People were playing it. It's gorgeous. I would not. It was funny because my friends were like, "Hey, you want to try that?" I'm like, "I'll play the giant version of Azul over here. I'll play the giant version of Small World over there. I am not touching that game because I can't see the cards."
Yep, exactly. That's a problem.
And here's the thing: I could see the bamboo, the growing pieces of the bamboo.
Sure,
you could tell the variation of it, but when you go to the cards don't really match the colors either, and that's a big problem. Because I'm looking at the cards, and I'm like, okay, I think this is the green, so I'm going to use this for the green. But it was the pink and the yellow and whatever the colors were, and I just couldn't see it. I want them to make a colorblind friendly version of this game, and I'll try to give it a second chance. But I will not touch the base game because of how unfriendly it is.
So before you argue it, I mean, definitely make your case for Camel Up. But between those 2 arguments of how uncolorblind friendly it is, and the fact that it doesn't really work in our category. Mm-hmm. It should be an easy decision, but still make your argument for Camel Up.
Well, Camelot's a Spiel winner, isn't it?
It is.
So, and the thing
And
about
you know
it is,
how biased I am on Spiel winners.
winners.
No, I'm the first to admit when I don't like a Spiel winner. There's been quite a few.
Especially recently, too. Oh, speaking of Spiel winners, we got to talk about
recently. We will. We'll talk about Cascadia, which just won.
Yeah.
Which, I like Cascadia. I bought it already. I bought it before.
I want to buy it, but yeah.
I was confident that it was going to be
I almost bought it on Game Nerd's deal, but it sold out like instantly.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
They had it for like $20.
Ooh, wow, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it was a good deal.
Yeah.
But anyways, neither here nor there. Camel Up. Mm-hmm. It's a good game for what it is. I'm not a huge fan of it. Both of these games, one, I just actively won't play it because it's just, I can't.
Right.
The other one, I'll play it if someone really, really wants to play it. Like our mutual friend has the second edition that he wants to get played. I'll play it if he wants to. Like if it's his pick and he brings it over and wants to play his version, fine. For a racing game, it's not my cup of tea. There's other games that I'd rather play for racing purposes.
Right.
But for functionally...
We discussed this in our racing podcast. Yeah.
For functionality of when it comes to the 3D components, you mentioned it, the camels. Phenomenal. I love the stacking, and you just move the entire stack if you're moving the certain colors. I like the fact that you could still be in the game based on some of the bets, because that's basically how you're going to win.
Yeah,
your camels are going to... You're just betting straight up. And then I love the pyramid, because it's basically a drop tower. It's telling you which things are going to be moving across the track when things come out.
Right.
It is the better game compared to the two. Not just functionality-wise for components and stuff like that for this topic, but it's just functionally a better game.
Yep.
Because everybody can still play it mostly, especially the second edition, which is vastly more colorblind friendly than the first version.
Yeah, and the first version wasn't even that bad. It had some pretty bright colors.
Yeah.
It was functionally fine, but the second edition is quite a bit better.
Yeah, and so I want to mention to this, because we're both colorblind and we're talking about Takanoko, and it's getting knocked because of it. For any board game designers or wannabe board game designers out there, if you want to make games colorblind friendly, there's a couple options you can do.
Yep.
Shade variations. If you're going to put red and green, because that's what most people do, make the reds darker.
Yep.
Make the greens lighter, or vice versa, but don't put them in the same tone. Don't use pastel and pastel.
Yeah, try to avoid all dark colors based on like. Yeah, there's a few games that do that where it's like the aesthetic of the game means that you have to have dark colors or all light colors.
You can even do...
But Alea has had that problem for years, and we always argue it when Alea does a game where it's always yellows, browns, and grays.
To the point where they had to print 3 different versions of Carpe Diem to make it more and more friendly.
Yes.
The game's only been out for, 2-3 years, something like that? So, yeah, there's that. There's also apps that can help you with colorblind. Stonemaier does it. They use 3 different colorblind-friendly apps to help them find the perfect colors for players to use. Now, sometimes they miss with their collector's edition of Red Rising because the metal doesn't adhere to the colors as well. So make it more friendly for people like us, because again, 4% of the population of men are colorblind. And
then at very least symbology. Have every color mean a symbol.
Well, symbol. Ticket to Ride is one of the best examples, early examples of it. Your reds are certain, like the oranges are circles, the greens are crosses, and so if you're going to use colors, put some symbology on it. This way everybody knows the greens are always going to be this, the reds are always going to be this.
Exactly.
So I think we're in agreement. Camel Up's moving on.
Camel Up's moving on. And our final round of our quarterfinals is Colt Express versus Imhotep, the third Spiel winner that we've argued today.
Wow, who knew that the Spiel winners were very big about
3D components? Yeah, and a lot of the new ones they're all flat. They wouldn't work with 3D components. With
Technically, Cascadia could.
Yeah, probably.
If you get like the little animal minis that you could buy.
Sure.
That I want to do for Arc Nova.
Yeah. Yeah, it could. I mean, yeah.
All right, who's going first?
All right, let's find out. The first argue is you.
And I am getting Colt Express.
Okay.
The other Spiel winner in this game.
Yep.
Wasn't Imhotep nominated?
It was nominated, yes. I think Takanoko might have been nominated.
I don't know about Takanoko, but I know Imhotep was.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because we're talking a Phil Walker Harding game too.
Yes. Yeah. this is going to be a tough argument.
Okay, so for me personally, I don't like Colt Express for one reason.
Yes.
One reason only.
Yep.
I got sausage fingers. The game's fine. It's a phenomenal game because you're just playing cards. You're trying to score treasure and not get caught by the sheriff. And people are playing cards to send the sheriff to whoever's leading, right. And basically away from me. And it's kind of like programming because you're moving things in certain directions. You're going up, down the cards. It's cool. It's very cool. Now, there's another issue I have with Cult Express. The 3D pieces for like the scenery. The most useless thing out there just to give it a little more pop at the table. It's like, come on, really? But everything else is fine. The train is cool.
Yeah.
I like everything about it is. But like I said, what I need...
It is functional, too.
It's very functional.
The bottom of the train is a very different thing.
And the thing is that's your game board. So you have to pay attention. I need a giant version of this game for I can play it properly because it's hard to get like your maple and move them a couple stages if you go into there. Right. Oh, well, I knocked someone over. Oh, someone knocked someone off the train because my hand pushed the whole train car basically. But all in all, it's not a bad game. I see why it won the spiel. I see why it's popular. The components, the arts, the graphic design, phenomenal. You do really feel like you're
like in a train heist?
Yeah, there you go. I was going to think of that. Like marauders on a train heist. Bandits, there we go. That's what I couldn't think of the term. Bandit. You feel like you're doing that. You're trying to outplay the other players. You're trying to collect gold, but you're also trying to send the sheriff, no, go over that way.
Right.
You get into fisticuffs. That's what's funny about it, too, is that you can get into fisticuffs in this game. There is a lot of meaningful choices, but a little bit because it's all based on a deck pool and deck draw. It's easier to play than Emotep, and that's saying something because Emotep is actually quite simple.
To a way, yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, when we're coming through the 3D aspect of this, I think Cult Express should go on. It fits this category better than Emotep because if you don't 3D print the boats, they're just cardboard pieces.
Right.
The 3D components of this game is the stacking of the cubes.
For the obelisk tile.
Well, not just that, when you're building the pyramid, the burial too.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, that's really all Emotep does for the 3D part.
Right. So, yeah, and I have to argue that. So, my argument is I'm going to say Phil Walker Harding. and actually one of his better ones, too. It's one of my favorite Phil Walker Hardings because the choices you make is either get some more cubes, put a cube, sail a boat. It shouldn't be that simple, yet it's very simple. You play a certain number of
strategic, too.
Very strategic as to what boat you sail. You can sail other people's boats, whether you have something on it or not.
And then certain boats cannot sail until there's a certain number of cubes on it.
Right, exactly. So the bigger the boat needs more cubes to sail. Mm-hmm. The positioning of where they are on the boat, the one that's closest to the front of the boat, goes off first and gets placed by the player. The extra blue cards, the special abilities, those are cool. The variability of like swapping around tiles. Each of the different categories has, I think, at least 4 tiles in the base set alone. The expansions add another, 4 sets of each one. Mm-hmm. So, definitely more replay value. Cult Express is good, and it's a spiel winner, and rightfully so. But I cannot disagree with you. There's no reason to have it 3D other than just the fact that, yeah, some cubes are on other cubes. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really matter. I mean, building the pyramid and how many... technically the obelisk could just be whoever has the most cubes. It's just a majority thing, so it doesn't matter. But the pyramid, yes, where you place it does matter. But at the same time, does it? At the same time, it doesn't really. It kind of does. You're going to go for the more points, and that's just positioning and timing. I can't disagree with you. I can't in good conscience let Imhotep move on.
The big part of it, too, is I know you're trying to save costs, and you put all of it in, the wood blocks. Just give us some plastic boats that make it just infinitely cool.
I ended up 3D printing my boats just because I had it. Yeah, and it just to make it cool, and 3D print some rafts, and it's fine. I can't argue. Based on our criteria, we're weeding out the ones that don't utilize the 3D component, and that's why Cult Express is legitimately moving on.
We'll say it out here for everybody out there. You prefer Emotep over Cult Express?
Yes,
same,
hands down. Even though I'm a spiel junkie, spiel winner, I hands down.
Honestly, I've played a lot of the spiel winners, not every single one you practically have because you own every single one. Colt Express is probably one of my least favorite of the Spiel winners.
It's not one of my favorites. It's in bottom half, but I still enjoy playing it.
I enjoy playing it. Again, my big detractor is I got massive hands. When I was training in
training. When you were training, you see what I'm saying? Training
for exercise. I was training in like MMA and stuff like that. I had to wear 2X gloves.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So these are not fitting in those little train cars.
So good news. I hate being on my phone during the podcast, but I did check a website called Thingiverse. Trains are 3D printable, and you can scale them. So we're good, all right? We're going to make a copy. You can stick your whole arm in if we need to.
Okay, that works.
We'll make a massive version. I think that would be actually really fun.
Oh, speaking of which, before we move on...
We'll make them a foot wide each.
Because I was just going to say, that would be actually kind of cool for like a convention. The wife gave me the go-ahead in September, if we are still doing it.
Sounds good. All right. So that's definitely something that I want to do is 3D print some trains. I think that's hilarious. So we'll definitely do that. All right, so Colt Express moves on. So we had 4 games that were eliminated primarily just because they didn't really use the
functional 3D as well.
Yeah, Torres was the best out of those 3, I think. Yeah,
functional wise.
Yeah, functionally wise. Okay, Torres was the only one that actually used 3D.
That's not the 3D. Best out of those.
No, but it used 3D the best.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. Out of the ones that were eliminated, how many votes did they get?
All right, so for our lowest one, which was Torres, they got no votes. Moving on to our number 5 seed, which was the next lowest that got eliminated, which was Emotep. They had 4% of the vote. Mm-hmm. Moving on to the next one was our 3 seed, Takanoku, who's not getting any love either. It was at 0% as well. And finally, our number 1 seed, Everdell, was eliminated, and it was our top vote getter at 43%.
So immediately everyone shut the podcast off because we've angered the audience.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. We both agree that Everdell is a good or great game, depending on your flavor. But functionally for this...
Send your hate mail to Daniel1@gmail.
Yeah, go ahead and send it to Daniel1 to see who else gets it, because it's not going to be me.
Not you.
I don't know if I want to, put our email at the end of the podcast.
Nope, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. All right, so we're moving on. We have, going into the semifinal round, our number 2 seed, Santorini, going up against our 8 seed, Rhino Heroes Super Battle.
All right, so let us begin. We are going to start with me. Are you arguing Santorini or Rhino Heroes Super Battle? The battle for the 3D components. Both of these, I will say, are all very functionally 3D.
I get Rhino Hero Super Battle.
Sounds great.
Can the 8 seed keep knocking off these top seeds? Here's the question.
We'll find out.
So, along with all the arguments that you were saying, all of these use the 3D aspect of it splendidly, and it's functional for the game.
Yes.
Rhino Hero Super Battle, you're building towers, moving your player characters up certain degrees. You also have like hanging monkeys on this for some reason. And you're just a group of superheroes trying to see who the best superhero is in this entire game. Phenomenal game. Can play with kids. That's the big point. This is a hobby game. This is made to play with children. But you see grown adults laughing and giggling every time they play this game. You'll see this at conventions with adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s just giggling and having a good time.
Yeah, I still do.
I still do. But the thing about it is, sometimes you don't have to be serious.
No.
And this is one of those games where you can be silly and have a great time. And for me personally, I think this one should move on just for that simple aspect of it. Sure. But when you're talking about the 3D components too, yeah, you're both building 3D component parts of the game, but this one is exponential. It can go as high as you have cards. It could just keep going. So I've seen some people pull out 2 copies of this game and just keep going and going to see how high they can get the card tower up. Mm-hmm. I love that aspect of it because it's for the 3D functional. This can just keep going and going until the tower falls. I love that. It's fun. It's very simple. Santorini is the more gamery of the games, yes. But Rhino Hero, when you're talking about game immersion, when you're talking about the memorable moments, there's going to be more memorable moments for this just because of that aspect. We again, like I said, we've seen it in conventions where people are building the tower and just giggling, and you're saying like your Happy Salmon, where people just stop and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
It leads to all that. So for me, I think we should go through the criteria. I'll let you have your say. Okay. I think it's going to be Rhino Hero Super Battle, but let's see what you have to say.
Well, as you said, Santorini is the gamery of the games. Between the two, I mean, it definitely wins meaningful choice.
Yeah.
Right? It defeats dexterity in that because it is a very, very strategic game.
Yeah.
And the variable player power adds so much options for, replay value.
Yeah.
And the components are really beautiful. I mean, they both definitely utilize the 3D aspect. In fact, they really wouldn't work without the 3D part of it. So that's going to be a wash no matter what for that category. You know. So does theme match mechanisms in this? Yeah, they both do. Now they're not technically thematic. I mean, what makes you heroic by getting to the top of a weird tower that's being built under you, right? Yeah. It's not. But again, what is, other than the shape of the buildings, what does it have to do with Santorini? Exactly. So, again, there's a wash for that part. But I feel like personally, I think Santorini is a simpler game than Rhino Hero Super Battle, because Super Battle adds in the half layer and double layer towers. It adds in the extra pieces that move around. It adds the monkey things that you're talking about. It adds moving the pieces around. There's more to it than the simplicity of Santorini, which is literally move a piece or build a tower. That's going to be your turn. You have plenty of options to do it. Get to the top, you win. It's technically, that's the win condition in Rhino Hero Super Battle as well. But now if this was going up against Rhino Hero, the base game, ease of play would go to Rhino Hero, but it's not. Since it's Super Battle, it is. I do feel Santorini is easier to play, which that alone, in my very just quick assessment, that's a 4-1 for Santorini. So let's actually break it down and see how it works out. There are some that I feel is obvious, and that's meaningful choice.
Santorini. Yeah.
Okay.
So ease of play, simplicity and familiarity of the missing. So simplicity, I will give you Santorini.
Yes.
You just move a piece, one a piece, but likelihood to get to the table.
I feel it's a wash on that, just because
I don't.
You think the superhero aspect of it?
The superhero aspect of it, and just the silly aspect of it.
I feel like the beauty of, like, because people know what Santorini is and know those iconic buildings. When you see that as a 3D component, that actually represents it really well.
Yeah, but people know it, but who really? My aspect of it is I didn't get Santorini because of the Greek Isles. I know the Greek Isles. I am a history buff, so I know a lot of that stuff. If I were to have to choose, even with me knowing the historical, I would go with Super Battle. I know a lot of people.
The fantasy superhero.
That, and I also know a lot of people will pull that out more so. Like our friend Game Geek, he would try to play it. Because of this big reason, it's something they can pull out to play with their kids. Santorini is not something a kid is going to get excited to play.
That's fair. That's a good point. And then prone to analysis paralysis, that is Santorini.
Santorini.
Which means ease of play goes to Rhino Hero.
Yep.
Yeah. So replay value, that should go to Santorini. Yes, okay.
Other than the length of time and scaling well, because they both play pretty fast. Santorini is basically a 2-player game. Rhino Hero is going to take a little bit longer because you can play with more people.
Okay.
All right. Get that problem again.
Thank you, Huskarog. Yeah, we're having some microphone and audio issues. We apologize.
We'll get to that in a minute. Let's move on to the
meaningful choice. We already know that's Santorini. What about replay value?
Well, we were saying replay value, I think, is minimum number of plays to get the full experience.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yeah,
I meant game immersion.
Game immersion. So, game immersion, we'll get to that in a minute. Santorini gets replay value and meaningful choice.
Yep.
Game immersion does the game fit the category best? Both of these fit pretty well. So, we're going to call that one a wash.
Right. Player interaction. I don't feel like I'm actually in Santorini. Where in Super Battle, I feel like the fact that I'm building up the buildings and running to the top, that is a little more thematic. I can see that being like a cartoon.
All right, so that's one for Rhino Hero. So who gets memorable moments?
Probably Rhino Hero as well.
Yep.
Yeah, just because when the tower comes falling, since it's a dexterity game, when that comes tumbling down, everyone's just up in a riot. Yeah, hands down.
All right, so finally, art and production. This is going to be the end all.
This is the tough one.
Pieces and components, hands down to Santorini.
Yes, I agree.
The art.
I mean, they're both great art.
They're really great art. This one's tough. I think graphic design is a wash because it's basically just cards versus buildings.
I would say the art is a wash too, because the cartoony Rhino Hero stuff is really good.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Therefore, Santorini is moving on.
Just barely. And we're going to take it. And we're back. So now we're going into our final of the semi-final rounds. And that is going to be Colt Express versus Camel Up, the two Spiel des Jahres winners. Two of the three that are on our list.
Yeah.
And both ones that I like. I think both ones that you're iffy on.
One more so than the other.
I probably like them about the same.
Who was the other one? Torres, that's right.
Torres was the other one.
All right, so let's see who's going.
All right, so our arguer will be on the floor.
It would be you.
Yep. That'll be me with the 6. So I'll be arguing for
Colt Express.
Colt Express, okay. So pre-programming in this game is actually really fun. There is a lot of strategic basis that you need to consider when deciding what you're going to do. You have a handful of your action cards, which are either move up or down to the opposite level, move left or right, based on where you're facing, turning around. So where your character is facing, that really does matter. And then, excuse me, on top of that, you can shoot off into the distance. You can punch people that are adjacent to you. And you're all trying to consider who's going for what, which bags you can take from whom. And you have to strongly consider your options when you see what people are playing. Because the first player is going to change throughout the round. And the round itself has some weird variability, as to some cards might be played face down, completely random, and the other ones might be face up, so you can see what people are plotting. But going through the tunnels really adds a wrinkle in everything. Now, I do agree that I get why you don't like the extra little 3D components, but they had some extra cardboard, of course, and instead of wasting it, I'm glad they at least did something. And that's, everyone who looks at it, they all kind of think the same thing. They're like, okay, that's stupid, but also a little cool, at the same time.
I don't think it's cool.
I think it's funny, personally. I think it's absolutely hilarious that they did that, because I know that they didn't use extra cardboard to do it. They didn't raise the cost of the game. They're going to have that cardboard anyway because of all the train pieces that need to be punched out.
Yep.
So they might as well utilize it, right? Makes sense. No wasted space. Just utilize the pieces. It makes sense. But anyway, you're right. It only adds to the flavor of the game, which I feel adds a little bit more to the immersion. The fact that those pieces are out there.
Not really.
I know you don't think so, but I really do. I really enjoy that fact.
I'd rather have 3D printed pieces for that, because it's those.
But that would jump up the price of the game.
Oh no, I just have someone else put the 3D printed for the immersion.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, you can still 3D print it, sure. I mean, I can too. But that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the fact that they took that effort to do it. But regardless aside, I like the pre-programming.
Functionally, it doesn't make sense. We're supposed to be on a moving train, and they're standing still. It's like one of those.
When you point out that way, they're off in the distance. It's moving very slowly. Okay, it's a perspective thing, which adds to the 3D right there. It seems stereoscopic because it's so far away. It's hard to move. When you're seeing a moving car, all of a sudden it's closer, moves faster.
Yeah,
it's really far away. That's why it's mountain tops and it's only that big. So it makes sense. Anyway, but we're talking about the game itself. The 3D component does actually have a factor in it, as does Camel Up. I'm not going to deny that. I feel like there's a lot of choice and a lot of really interesting ideas behind when do you do what you do. When your plans fall apart, it's not a complete wash, and it adds to the variability of everybody else. If I mess up because I misplan one thing, that doesn't mean that I'm out of the running. That might actually make it more of a hindrance for everybody else. So I love that aspect of it. So regardless, I do think Colt Express should move on between the two.
All right, so I got to argue for Camel Up. I can't disagree with everything you said, other than the pieces that are just useless.
Right.
Camel Up, there's no useless pieces in this game.
No, but you know what there is, though? In the expansion.
Gambling.
In the expansion, there's a little 3D camera.
We're not talking about the expansion.
No, I love the 3D camera. It's one of the components. Like there's a photographer, and I don't know what it does, but I know that there's a little camera on a tripod as one of the pieces, and that's awesome. Anyway, continue.
Again, it has the nice drop tower. It has the camel pieces that kind of stack up and they move along. I like a lot of it. The moving of the camels aren't really thematic per se, because the only time you're going to see a camel mounting another camel is something you're going to have to explain to your kids or National Geographic.
Right. Well, camels are known for their humps. So go on. Sorry.
But I can't disagree with you. I think Colt Express should move on as well, because the big part of the basic game of Camel Up is the gambling part of it. Right. Everything else is basically luck of the draw in a sense, because you don't know what camels are moving unless what comes out of the pyramid. If they're on top of each other, they're moving the whole pile, but the person on the bottom is the one that's leading, so that's also kind of confusing sometimes. Right. And so it's got everything for it. I want to like it. I think Colt Express, my only argument for Colt Express is I can't get my hand in there to move pieces. That's my main argument, and the useless pieces, but I understand what you're saying. They had the cardboard space, might as well use it. But I think Colt Express should move on.
Alright, sounds good. Colt Express is moving on. That was a pretty civil argument. Other than useless pieces. And now the argument for useless pieces.
There's no useless pieces in one of these games.
Oh no, Santorini absolutely has an entire raised level base. Totally not necessary. Don't argue useless pieces on me on that one. No way. Colt Express, it has aesthetic stuff. Santorini isn't lifted off of the ground. Unless it is. I don't know. I've never been. But I don't remember that
it's more on like hillside.
I know it's hillside, right? But there's not a whole massive platform.
Technically, they are lifted off the ground because they're on the hillside.
Yeah.
Well, one house is taller than the other, but you know what would have made more sense for Santorini? San Francisco. They're better than New York.
Yeah.
If they're going to go with an American city, since Santorini's built on hillside, San Francisco would have been a better choice than New York.
That's true. You're not wrong on that.
All right, so you know what they could have done too is like New York City, a Santorini game.
That's what they should have, yes.
But moving on to the finals.
All right, well, let's talk about how many votes Up and Rhino
Hero Super Battle. Rhino Hero Super Battle was our 8th seed, moved all the way up to the semifinals, took out Everdell. Mm-hmm. It was, let's give it a little refresh. No love, 0% votes. Yeah. If it was Rhino, in all honesty, if it was Rhino Hero, it probably would have gotten more votes.
Maybe.
I think it would. Because last time we put Rhino Hero on the thing, it got a decent amount of votes.
Then again, it's almost never that we have Hobbit games voted for.
True.
I think a lot of, I'm not trying to assume, but I do think a lot of gamers don't think it's a cool thing to vote for. Where I don't care.
Oh yeah.
I like Hobbit.
I like Charlie. I still giggle when we play Coconuts, all right?
Yeah, Coconuts is hilarious. That's right.
So I'm okay. If Coconuts was on a list, I'd vote for it.
I mean, you and I played Forbidden Bridge the other day.
Yeah,
Loved it.
That was hilarious. It was even more hilarious. You kept dropping your jewels.
It wasn't meant to be good. It's meant to be fun.
All right, and then finally, Camel Up was eliminated, and it had 15% of the votes.
Very good. So our final round, we do not take sides. We just simply argue each of the 5 criteria between Santorini and Colt Express. Daniel, is there any of them that are immediately obvious?
There's kind of 2 that fall in place for me.
Okay.
For me, I think Ease of Play.
Okay.
I think that's Santorini because, again, you're just moving one and another. The only problem I have for Santorini is... Actually, I think Ease of Play, now that I'm looking at it, is going to go to Colt Express. The simplicity and familiarity to the mechanism, that's easily Santorini. Yeah. But the fact that likelihood to get to the table, the train is going to make the fact that Colt Express is more likely to get to the table than Santorini, as well as Santorini can sometimes lead to analysis paralysis more so than Colt Express.
So Ease of Play will go to Colt Express.
Yep.
All right.
And then the other one that jumps out to me is art and production for Santorini. I just think it's a better looking game overall. The train is fine, but the train starts to get frayed with the cardboard. It starts to deteriorate after
the
time.
Cardboard pieces with the money on it. Those
Yeah.
Are, you know.
The art is okay. I think I like the art in Santorini, but the actual Santorini pieces,
Agree. Yeah, and the graphic design is pretty solid as well. They're both really good. It's honestly a really tight thing, but yeah, I think just those plastic pieces, the starkness of the white, the dark blue buildings, they really captured the picturesque basis of
Santorini. Yeah. All right, so moving on, like you were saying, replay value.
Replay value.
Length of time and scaling well. Both of them are pretty quick. The only problem with Santorini, you can play with more players, but it's two players.
Yeah, and you really can't.
You can.
It's not a thing.
It's like just shoehorning a solo play and or our personal favorite, adding a dummy player for a two-player game.
Or like when they say it's a 4-player and you're playing two, like, oh well, 2 players are playing the same character.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a 4-player game. It's a 2-player game. Don't lie to us.
Yeah, that big bad is Star Wars Rebellion. It's 2 to 4, but it's not 2 to 4. It's a 2-player game because if you're doing 2 to 4, 2 to 4, then somebody's splitting the ground troops and the space troops.
Yep.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
I want to control the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm playing it. Yeah. Stop arguing with me.
Yeah. So Santorini does not scale well.
No, it really doesn't.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience.
No, that's tricky because
I think they're
playable powers.
It pretty much is a wash.
I think it's a wash as well. But expandability, there aren't expansions for Santorini. I mean, I think there's technically like
there's a whole other game.
There's a whole other game, right? But I mean, there's enough expandability in Colt Express to warrant a big box version.
Yeah, no, I get you. So replay value, Colt Express.
Yep.
Yeah.
Replay value, Colt Express. All right. Meaningful choice. Impact of other players' strategies is huge in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But your long-term strategy, you must play on top of your game to win in Santorini.
Yeah. And the big thing about this, I think meaningful choice is going to go to Santorini for the next one. Arbitrary choices.
Yes.
You're beholden to card draws.
Yes. Well, no, you're not beholden to card draws.
Oh, yeah.
You have all your cards.
Yeah.
But the funnest part about Colt Express is when you go into the tunnels because it's that chaos.
Yeah.
But that means that you can't adequately plan for an entire round. That is a detractor as far as strategy goes, but it's amazing as far as the theme goes. So I think meaningful choice goes to Santorini.
Yes.
Yeah. So 2 and 2. It all comes down to game immersion. Which game fits the category best and matches the theme? Again, they both heavily utilize the 3D function.
I'm okay with calling that part a wash. The thing about it is Colt Express, the 3D part of it is fine because you're playing on the train, where you're actively playing the 3D part of it in Santorini.
Yes. And see, here's the biggest part. In order to play the game, you need a 3D aspect in Colt Express.
Mm-hmm.
The 3D aspect of Santorini is the mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference, is that you're not building anything. The 3D part of it is functionally needed to play Colt Express, but you are actively creating the
3D function. And technically, you have to win because of the 3D component.
Yes. So based on does the game fit the category, that has to go to Santorini, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with you on that part.
However, player interaction.
Colt Express.
Easily. And memorable moments.
All right, I'm going to say it, Colt Express.
Yes, I think you and I agree. Which just pushes Colt Express 3D, honestly surprising me.
Exactly.
Because I thought Santorini was going to get it. And it does hold its own for components and strategy. But Colt Express is so thematic.
And so immersive.
I mean, you feel like you're running around, punching people, shooting
now,
people.
Is it the best Western game? No, not by a long shot.
I agree with that. It's not the best Western game, but it's as far as
very immersive to 3D components.
I've never seen anything else that captures that like reality of like a train heist, like all the chaos unfolding on a moving train. Every movie you see that has a moving train in it, this encompasses it really well and in an easy to play, fun package.
All right, Colt Express actually wins it. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, congratulations to the Spiel winner, Spiel des Jahres winner. So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you have enjoyed our episode. We want to thank you, as always. If you ever want to join in on one of our live chats and our live filming, join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
As well as you can find all video re-uploads on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you're not. Like this video and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean. You can tell it's been a while. Also, there is, in all the descriptions, there are links to everything I just described.
If you want to give us a shout out, say hi to us directly, enter in a future contest, or give us an idea for an upcoming episode, feel free to email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as you can get in contact with us on our official Twitter account at EBG Podcast.
We want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.